Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan and thank you so much for stopping by. Today I wanted to take some time to tell you about the birth of my rainbow. If you are watching this on the day that I am publishing it, it is his birthday. My little Solomon turns 2 today. With all of my other kids, I have shared their birth story and pregnancy experience, usually within like a week of their birth. And he's 2 and I haven't shared his yet. His birth was a lot more difficult and a lot more complicated than my births usually are, and is a lot more emotionally loaded, and I never really felt prepared. But he's 2 now and I would really love to share, because pregnancy and birth for a child born after a loss it's a lot more complicated, and a lot of people don't realize that. So I'm sharing today in hopes that will be an encouragement, and if nothing else, just interesting and a cool birth story for those who love birth stories. For those of you who don't know, I had a second trimester miscarriage with my 5th child in January 2015. He was a surprise, and we decided after that we were just completely done. We did not want to risk that happening again. My emotional and physical recovery was a lot more complicated because I had some complications, so I ended up needing to have what's called a D&E with him. A few weeks after his birth, my husband was in a really bad car accident, and my brain just kind of freaked out, and I developed post-traumatic stress disorder. My brain was just kind of convinced everyone around me was dying, and I stopped sleeping, and I was having near constant panic attacks. Thankfully, I had a wonderful midwife I was seeing, and she got me into a therapist who helped me really work through some things. But I wouldn't say I was really on the other side of like really into recovery and past the crisis point until about June of 2015. And it was at that point that I realized, wait, I'm not done. There's no baby that will ever replace our Asher who died. I just could not shake this constant feeling that someone was missing. And it wasn't just missing him and wishing he was there. It was like I literally would be counting the kids to walk out the door to go to the grocery store, and something in my brain would just say over and over again, someone is missing. Someone is missing. In August, we decided that we were going to try to have a baby, and I am so grateful that God gave us a baby on the very first try. The pregnancy was filled with anxiety. If anybody had tried to talk to me about how much harder a pregnancy after a loss is, I probably would have been very sympathetic, but been like, oh, you know, try to give pat answers and be sympathetic. It wasn't until I had my own pregnancy after a loss that it's the best way I can describe it is everyone says, oh, it'll be okay. But you know that it won't necessarily be okay. And you know what it's like when the bottom does fall out. I mean, nobody can guarantee that it's going to be okay. Every day was like a struggle against my mind that was just screaming, he's going to die. He's going to die too. My 3rd trimester, I started having a lot of panic attacks. I really focused on the scripture. I just repeated over and over again when I would be having the panic attacks. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and I know that full well. Your works are so evident in my life, and just variations of that over and over, just trying to give my anxiety to God and trust that whatever happened, I couldn't even trust that it would be okay. I just had to trust that whatever happened, he would carry me. And by the way, it was huge. I'll post some pictures. This was going to be our first hospital birth. Our first 3 were born in a birth center, and then our midwife's birth center had closed down, so our 4th was a home birth. And I'll post the home birth Q&A style thing that I did to talk about that birth here. Our 5th, out of necessity, it was technically a hospital birth, but it was a surgery. I was under general anesthesia, and I was not aware for a long time. This was going to be our first real hospital birth, because we found out at 12 weeks that I had placenta previa. Placenta previa is where the placenta attaches to the uterus over the cervix, and which is where the baby gets out. So basically, as soon as you start dilating, it starts ripping, in essence, the placenta, and the baby can bleed to death before you're even fully dilated. By the time we got to the end of pregnancy, it was borderline, where it's very, very close, but theoretically it should be okay. But we just decided it was not a chance we wanted to take for home birth. I was not an easy patient. I would tell my midwives, there was a practice of 3 of them, and every time someone new that I hadn't seen would walk in and, start talking to me about standard hospital stuff, I'd be like, I'm a home birther. This is my first hospital birth, and I'm only here because of that pesky placenta. So no, I'm not going to do that test. And do you have the forms to decline? 'Cause we don't do that either. I think I probably came off as a little rude to some of them, without a doubt, because I'm just kind of a blunt person, and I, in essence, was saying, my medical situation is forcing me to be here. I don't want to be here, so... Plus, I was racked with anxiety, so it was a really fun pregnant lady to deal with. But when I got to 39 weeks, my midwife checked me, which I'm not usually like a hands-on person, but I was like, I am miserable. Can you tell me if there's anything going on in there? And she did, and I was like, not even dilated. So after that appointment, I went to the chiropractor to make sure, everything was lined up properly for an optimal birth position, to make sure that wasn't something holding the baby back. The morning of April 24th, I woke up and I just felt different. It was a Sunday. It was like I got up, my huge pregnantness, and I went to the bathroom as soon as I got out of bed, and my head just said, you're gonna have a baby today. This is the day you have your baby. And I was not having any signs, but my head was like saying that, and I was just like, shut up. I've been pregnant for so long. Now I know so many women go overdue, and I was 2 days away from my estimated due date already, so many women have it worse than I do. That was my brain. I just told my husband, I am not in the mood to go to church. I don't want to people today. I just need to get out of the house. I was like stir crazy. My anxiety was through the roof. And I have 2 points of bad anxiety. One is I get stir crazy. I'm like, I need to leave this house. I need to get out. It's kind of like running away. Like I can't be. So we just went around and did weird things. We went to the new fresh market that had just been built in town. We went and had Vietnamese food for lunch, and it was at lunch that I just started having some pressure, not even contractions, just pressure. It was around dinner time, when I was making dinner, that I started having contractions. But I kind of know myself, and I know the type of contractions I was having. They were painful, but super irregular. It would just be one hard clamping down, and then nothing would happen for 20 minutes. And I know from experience, from my training as a doula, that is often an indication of the baby not being in a great position. Your body's kind of trying to shift the baby with the squeezing and stuff. It wants to labor, and the baby's just not quite right. Things picked up slowly. I went and walked the perimeter of our acre, just power walked. 9 o'clock, they were about 5 minutes apart. So I called my midwife. So we took the kids by our friend's house right near the hospital, and they were all in their pajamas and ready to go to bed. When we checked in, I was 7 centimeters dilated, which didn't surprise me. And within about an hour and a half, I was fully dilated. And I knew, because I always hit this point in transition where I just get weepy, like blubbery. They had these birthing tubs that were like obscenely small. We had an incredible birth photographer. She loved my work as a bereavement doula. So she offered to be our birth photographer as a gift to me for our rainbow. And I'm so incredibly blessed by that. And she took some incredible pictures. So she was there with us, and our midwife was there, and our midwife was awesome. She was like, every nurse that came in, she's like, this is Megan. She's a home birther. This is a first hospital birth for her, so we're just going to make this room as much like her home as possible. And thankfully, I had nurses that were really great about that. And another thing that was funny about the situation was that of the midwives on call, when I called to say that I was coming in, it was the midwife I didn't like very much. I never clicked with her, and I had more anxiety about it being her. But truth be told, when I got there, she was exactly the woman that needed to be there with me. She was incredible. So after about an hour, I was fully dilated, and I hit transition, where I was in the teeny tiny birth tub. And I just started bawling, and I always do. It's this certain kind of feeling where I'm just like hysterically crying, and my husband knows it. And as soon as I started crying like that, he was like, oh, Brenda, we got to get her out of the tub because that hospital doesn't allow you to give birth in the tub. So they came and they got me out of the tub. I just cried, and I cried, and I cried. And my midwife was like, do what your body feels like it needs to do. And my body shut off. Like, it literally shut off. I tried pushing on my own power for probably half an hour, and then she just was like, Megan, can I check you? Because something's not right here. He had not descended at all. Like, most people dilate, they open up because the baby's head is in there and opening. And his head was not at all. Like, I was fully open, and he was like, I'm good in here. That's okay. Could push and push and push all I wanted, and it wasn't going to do anything. It was at that point that my body stopped having contractions. Like, I was fully dilated and nothing. And over time, I just started having like this constant pain. It was nonstop, and I can't even describe it. And they checked everything, and they kept a close eye on my vitals and his position. Nothing was out of order. I just was in this horrible, horrible pain. And I am quite sure it was my body physiologically trying to stop. It lasted for several hours, and at one point I just started crying, and my midwife sensed what was going on. So she, at that point, I was curled up in a ball on the floor with pillows. And she laid down on the floor next to me, and she just like got nose to nose with me, and she's like, Megan, he's not gonna die. And she said, what was your other baby's name? And she just sensed that my body wasn't letting him come, because my head was sure he was not gonna be alive, just like our last baby. And we talked about those feelings on the filthy hospital floor for quite a while, and she was amazing. And I am so grateful that she was my midwife, because if I am positive that if it were most other hospital care providers, I would not have been allowed to just sit there at 10 centimeters dilated with zero activity and not make any progress and not be rushed into a C-section. At one point we did decide to try some Pitocin just to perhaps trigger my body into having some more contractions. And it didn't work, but that pain got so much worse. And so we slowly over time kept increasing the Pitocin, and my body would not contract. But the horrible pain I was in, there were no contractions on the monitors, nothing. But I had this constant pain, so I ended up trying nitrous oxide, which is the gas where you inhale and it kind of just makes you feel woozy and takes away the sensation of pain. And it got to a point early in the morning, well into the 25th now, where I was just laying in bed holding the mask over my face looking at my husband, and I just started crying and I said, I need an epidural. I need something. And I have never had any kind of intervention or help or pain relief. I am grateful I have not needed it. I just was so emotionally and physically spent. We talked to the midwife and we're like, really seriously, I need an epidural. So I got the epidural, and very quickly after that, I just fell asleep. I still had not made any progress. I still was fully dilated, and it had been 10 hours at that point that I had been fully dilated. So the nurses came in and they got me on my side so he would have, the best oxygenation and everything, and put a peanut ball between my legs to keep my hips open in hopes that he would descend properly. It was just before 9 o'clock that I woke up and I just felt strange. So I reached down, I was numb from here down. So I reached down and there was a head. I yelled and woke up my husband, and he ran out and got the midwife, and they both came in and they're like, he's here. Like his head is right there. So she said, oh, why don't you just give one little trial push while they're like breaking the bed down and getting it ready and getting out the stirrups, because I couldn't move, so I couldn't, hold my own legs up. So I tried, and he just came out in one push. I was literally, in literal shock. She put him on my chest, and I was like, he's here and he's alive? Like, are you kidding me? My brain truly, until that point, had never accepted the fact that I was actually going to have a baby. The epidural took my pain away, and I just fell asleep. And my body, after my brain was out of the way, could take over and birth my baby exactly as it knew how. And I am so grateful that we had that modern intervention to enable that for us. And I'm so grateful for the midwife that I had, and I am so grateful for my beautiful boy. We named him Solomon Uriah. Solomon means peace, and Uriah means light from God. And he is absolutely both of those things for our family. And that is my hospital birth story of my 6th child, my rainbow baby. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to answer any questions in the comments, and subscribe to our channel. Bye, friends.